from the Schaefer Sports Hall of Fame inside the Carson Student-Athletes Center. It's time for Sun Devil Extra. Braiden Bell joined alongside ASU AD Graham Rossini. And Graham, it's an exciting week to be in the Valley as a whole. The Women's Final Four is being held here this weekend. Of course, there's plenty to do, plenty to see that we'll cover on the program. But we'll start with the Women's Final Four because it's an exciting time, and obviously ASU has a tie-in to hosting that downtown.
Yeah, really exciting week for the Valley, for the state for that matter, as we get the Women's Final Four in Arizona for the first time ever. First time it's been on the West Coast in quite some time, and another one of those major mega events that comes to Arizona with such great regularity. And what a showcase for us this time of year, where you've got 4 1 seeds coming in. I think everybody's in town at this point, and events are underway. We got back from a really exciting event this morning, the NCAA Legacy Project at Washington Activity Center, totally refurbished youth recreation center, indoor basketball court, outdoor court. They'll have yoga, pickleball, music classes, youth sports programming. And so the festivities are underway, and we know each day it'll get bigger and bigger, and unbelievable showpiece for the Valley of the Sun this time of year as we welcome this event. Fans coming from all over the world in the Valley right now. So good time to be us, good time to be involved in it, and certainly on the heels of a wonderful women's basketball season at ASU, really keep that spotlight going as we get into the transfer portal next week.
Yeah, you know all about how women's basketball is growing. We saw it here firsthand at ASU, and obviously just the sport in general is growing in a big way.
Yep.
And it's exciting to see there are other events, not just the Final Four. They've got the stuff downtown, obviously at the Convention Center, so many different ways to activate this weekend. The McDonald's All-American games were in town yesterday as well, so there's a lot going on. In terms of how it factors into ASU, like I know it's hosted by ASU, but what does that actually mean? I think fans might not see the connection quite in terms of what ASU actually brings to the table this weekend.
It's a really cool opportunity for us to plug into these events as they come through, and it's certainly a statewide effort anytime you recruit and attract these events into your marketplace. But operationally, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and NCAA does a great job of providing structure and guidance. Their team is very involved in the execution of it, but it's a fun opportunity for the host institution to really offer some operational expertise and make sure that the business of running a basketball game can continue. And we're lucky with a great team here in Sun Devil Athletics that does that all throughout the year. We have over 250 live events that we produce, and so lending that expertise to the NCAA and the Women's Final Four to go operationally make it work. I mean, we've got teams working on game statistics, media relations, event management, security, the medical and training liaisons as well. And so a number of people throughout the department that are getting a chance to help make this event go and make sure that it thrives and really is a great experience for the coaches and players coming in, for the fan bases, for the institutions, and make sure that operationally it's as seamless as can be.
Yeah, like you said, more so than anything, a great spotlight for the Valley of the Sun this weekend to have the eyeballs of every women's basketball fan on the Valley, and should be an awesome weekend, obviously, of basketball. Staying now with the theme of basketball, of course, some additional hirings of the men's basketball program, a couple of associate head coaches, Rick Croy and Joe Rahan, both named associate head coaches, with Randy Bennett, of course, being at the helm of Sun Devil basketball. It's just furthering that, the staff is starting to take shape with the portal opening, like you said, next week, and a couple of names that really should excite fans in terms of guys with a ton of experience as the associate head coaches.
It's pretty exciting to see. I mean, Coach Bennett, a very successful veteran coach himself, but building a very veteran, savvy, well-experienced coaching staff around him. You look at Rick Roy as an example, where he's been head coach for 13 years at Cal Baptist, has had incredible success as they transition from Division II to Division I, made the NCAA tournament this year, played against Kansas in those early rounds, and somebody that was on our list, was a candidate as we were starting to get our list of 20 or so together. Couldn't ignore what Coach Croy had done at Cal Baptist, especially as of late. And so the fact that he wants to come in and be an associate head coach, he worked with Coach Bennett at St. Mary's back in the day, and so they've got a relationship and a history that's going to be of benefit as they come on board. And so Rick got here over the weekend. He's fired up to be here. He's a big personality. He's got great energy, incredible recruiter, incredible coach, and so he's a wonderful addition to our staff, as is Joe Rahan, who was most recently with Coach Bennett at St. Mary's. And Joe's got a really interesting story. He's a rising star in the sport, and San Diego kid, grew up in Torrey Pines, went out to Boston College. Initially, they had a coaching change, and he was able to transfer back to St. Mary's because Coach Bennett had recruited him out of high school, and they had built a really neat relationship. And so, Joe was at St. Mary's for 2 years, and is all over their statistical record boards. I mean, he's a legend up there with the Gales, and had a chance to coach after playing a couple years in Europe professionally. And so, Joe's a rising star in the game, was involved in some head coaching searches of his own this particular cycle. And when word came that Coach Bennett was going to be the head coach at ASU, he thought this is a great chance to continue his growth and trajectory and learn at the Big 12 level and contribute his coaching and recruiting aptitude. And so, really the first three, including Coach Bennett out the gate, couldn't be more excited about the way that this group's coming together. They're maybe a day or two away from some other hires that'll be joining the staff as we get this group solid and ready for the transfer portal, getting ready to build out the 26-27 team. Couldn't be happier with how the staff is coming together. And so they're hard at work out the gate, and really excited to see how the rest of this group shapes up here in the coming days.
Yeah, it's exciting times, even though the games aren't happening, obviously, for many months now. Just having the staff assemble, and, of course, to see what could happen in the transfer portal starting next week, which will be a busy time for both the men's and the women's programs, of course. That'll be very exciting to see.
And I'll offer, I think part of the benefit of obviously moving quickly, finding Coach Bennett, getting him here, is the retention conversations that they're having with the roster. There's a lot of players on this year's team that really electrified the fan base, that were fun to watch and really proud of their time as Sun Devils. And so it's been really nice that now this group's had a week and a half or so to really spend some one-on-one time with a lot of the returning players and really understand what makes them tick, how they fit into the style of basketball that we'll be playing moving forward. And so that's been a great benefit the first couple of weeks of this new coaching staff, of building that rapport. They're able to be in the gym and get to know them as not only young people, but in terms of their interests around basketball. And so that'll benefit us as well as we get into next week. And I do know this, there's a lot of interest in people that want to be a Sun Devil, and we've seen that in the coaching search. We're seeing that now, where I think every day we're getting 5 or 6 new people reaching out saying, hey, I want to be on the staff, I'll volunteer my time, I want to come and be a part of what Coach Bennett's building. The same will be true from the player standpoint. And so next couple weeks should be a lot of fun. We can't wait to get into it.
No doubt, and I'm glad you brought that up in terms of retention. That's an important note for every program nowadays. There's so much talk about the transfer portal, and deservingly so, but a lot of the time, the retention is just as important, and if not more so. Flipping the card over to baseball now, I know that's something we could both talk about for a while, and the second half of the season is officially here for Sun Devil baseball. Time flies. 25th in the country, where the Sun Devils are at currently 21-8 record, and we have to talk about one Landon Hairston and what he's been able to do. I saw you at the ballpark over the weekend, Graham, and Landon put on a show really all week long, but I just want to give you these numbers where he's at as we stand before the U of A series this weekend. He's at .469 on the average line, 17 home runs, 48 RBIs, and OPS over 1,500. He's slugging over 1,000, for Pete's sake. I mean, he's putting on a show that, as Willie Bloomquist said, he's never seen it done at any level of baseball. It's really amazing to watch.
Well, I can't wait to see the B-roll that Sean puts on of just grand slam, grand slam, grand slam, grand slam, home run,
plenty of options.
Et cetera. He's got plenty to choose from already. It's hard to believe that we're already halfway through the season. I haven't been able to be out there all that much this spring so far, but it was fun over the weekend to get out there against the big series against West Virginia. But what do you say about Landon? And Coach Bloomquist is very stoic. He's very matter of fact. And after the game Monday night against San Diego State, I was watching the game at home, and I think within minutes of the game ending, had a text from him of like, I've never seen anything like this. Like, this is borderline absurd with what Landon's been doing as of late. And it's fun to see the nation taking notice of it, and a little bit of chatter of Golden Spike's player watch list, and Big 12 Player of the Week, I think, reigning as we go into this week. And so what can you say? And we saw last year. I mean, he was just a solid contact hitter. He put on a lot of strength over the summertime, and really you see that jump from freshman to sophomore, particularly the freshmen that play a lot. That sophomore year is usually a fun one to see, just that progression in terms of the game doesn't speed up on them. They know what to expect. They know how to train and prepare. And then physically they keep maturing from 18 and 19 or freshman to sophomore, as is the case for Landon. And just, he's a different body type this year. And you just see that strength really pay some dividends in terms of just, he's always had a beautiful swing, that fluid left-handing swing that he's got. Now the power's starting to come a little bit. But that's not his approach. He's looking up there gap to gap, hitting line drives, moving base runners ahead of him along. But when you've got that kind of profile in your leadoff spot, I mean, that's the debate that a lot of baseball managers always have of, where do you put your best hitter? Right. Well, put him in the place where he's going to get the most at-bats, and so that's why you see him in the leadoff spot. But what can you say? I mean, he son of a big leaguer, so his baseball instincts have always been off the charts, just based on the Hairston family and what that means to the sport of baseball for people who follow it, and the fact that he's really put in the work, and we're all benefiting as a result. So couldn't be prouder of the start of the program, and certainly Landon's there front and center leading the charge.
perfect game midseason player of the year was just awarded to Landon yesterday as well. So that kind of gives you a sense of the national buzz that's starting to really swell up around him, and deservingly so.
Right.
And I think the main point I would touch on in terms of going back to the leadoff spot is the 48 RBIs. It shows the bottom of the lineup's doing a great job getting on base for him.
Yeah.
And that's not always a very common thing.
Well, you look at the offense altogether this year, and I think almost on any given night, every starter is probably hitting 315 or better, which is, a nightmare if you're a visiting team looking at our lineup and who you're going to face and how do you game plan for that. And we've seen so many games already that are 10 runs or more. What really excites me is the pitching efficiency that we're starting to see. And even some of the games over the weekend when you look up, I think Friday night was 12 strikeouts to 2 walks. Monday night against San Diego State was the same way, where maybe 10 strikeouts to 2 or 3 walks, and just the efficiency and the depth of the bullpen that we're really starting to see, and the fact that you can go to Easton Barrett on your 4th game in 4 days and know that he's going to give you 5 solid innings. And really, he settled in after his first couple starts of the year. And so the pitching depth is really what is going to carry this team. We're going to score runs. We're going to defend. We're going to defend. We've played great defense all season long. I would expect that to continue with the level of coaching pedigree that you have with Willie and Jason Ellison and Mike Goff and the guys that are just infield experts, and the way that really translates. But the pitching, and you can't say enough about Jeremy Ricardo and what he's done. Dan Jaffe working with the catchers, working on the bullpen, and what that means for just the ability of these pitchers to come in. And you look at some of these arms coming in. Finn Edwards is one that just, for a young guy coming out of the pen, 6'6", I don't know, he might even be bigger than that.
6'7".
6'7", there you go. Big dude, strike zone efficient, powerful arm, and a young guy. And you think like a freshman really fitting into the mix right out the gate like that. It's fun to see. But again, Landon sets the tone, obviously in the leadoff spot, but also what he's doing from a leadership standpoint. And it's been a fun season, and they've been battle tested out the gate. I don't know that many teams have played more games against ranked teams than we have. We've had probably arguably the hardest start of the Big 12, including U of A this weekend. That was top 15 preseason. And so battle tested out the gate. They're hanging in there. They're playing great baseball, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun the rest of the way.
Well said. Yeah, Arizona this weekend in Tucson due to the Easter holiday. It'll be Thursday through Saturday instead of Friday through Sunday as per usual. So keep an eye on those games, obviously, throughout the weekend at High Corbett. Always a fun atmosphere. Talking to Willie on his show earlier this week, it was you could feel the emotion. You could feel the excitement, really, not only from him, but the entire team as well, to get down there to Tucson.
Yeah, always a fun series. I mean, the rivalry speaks for itself. It's been fun since Willie and Chip Hale got back to their respective alma maters. It just means more to both of them. And so those games will be intense. It'll be fun baseball. Both programs are among the best in the nation. So a lot riding on those games. And not that you need that extra motivation, but it'll be fun to go down to Tucson and compete this weekend. Yeah,
no doubt. Staying with the Diamond Sports, and our last thing is segment 1 here in softball. 23rd in the nation. They're having a really successful road trip so far. They went all the way back east, took on NC State, UNC, and Marist, won their first 5 games of that trip, and now they have a huge Big 12 weekend series against Kansas, a team that the Devils are currently looking up at in the standings. And, ranked 23rd, it's been a really uber competitive Big 12 so far this year. Of course, Texas Tech was the favorites to win it, but it's been competitive all the way up and down, and a really nice start to the road trip for the Sun Devil softball team.
Yeah, last week was big. Just getting a chance to see some new programs, and NC State, the 2 wins against North Carolina and how big they were. Marist played great softball as well, and so that first game against Marist, I think it was Friday morning, of just low scoring, very good defense, very good pitching, and had to scrap out a win there. But 5-0 on a week on the East Coast, you can't argue with much more than what they did, and really kind of piled on those late games against UNC. And so the bats are feeling good. The pitching's been locking in week by week. You're really seeing, Kenzie is steady. She's one of the best pitchers in America. We're lucky to have her, but Issa and Mika and what they've done really behind her, and how they've gotten better week by week. You've really seen that progression where I think Mika made a mechanical adjustment. Issa's found her rhythm, and man, they've been really, really effective to have a 1-2-3 punch like that. And then you've got Mary Peyton Hodge there as well, kind of the young buck getting her time, and a key contributor in this program in her freshman year. So really exciting. The Big 12 is we don't talk about the quality of softball in the conference as much as we probably should, but look up and down the top 25 and you see it there. And you mentioned a really important weekend against Kansas right now. That sport seems like it's been the gauntlet week in and week out as well. And so we're lucky with, I think, with the way the schedule lines up. We have a lot of home games at Farrington down the stretch. That's not the same for other teams in the conference. You look at some of them that maybe only have 1 or 2 home weekends left. So that lines up nicely for us, and we've just got to control our destiny. We're in a really good spot right now. Sitting where we are, win-loss record is solid. Want to keep stacking up conference wins and really start to solidify postseason, and then really get a little bit greedy in terms of could we host, could we play our way into a really deep tournament run. I think the personnel is in place, and so execution will be really key as we get down the stretch run. But another spring sport that's been a ton of fun to watch, well coached by Coach Bartlett, and can't wait to see what they do here these next 2 months.
Yeah, road warriors, and give them a lot of credit. Like you said, it's nice to have that schedule down the stretch being at home a little bit more. Of course, the home-friendly schedule at the beginning is a given, but to have it at the end is also really important as well. When we come back, spring football is here before we know it, and CJ Fite, the fourth-year defensive lineman, he is a fan favorite. He'll join us on the program when we come back. Back on Sun Devil Extra as it is spring football season, and it's always a good time to talk Sun Devil football. Joined alongside the heart and soul, really, of this defense. He is a fourth-year returner this year for Sun Devil football. CJ Fite joining us on the program. CJ, first off, second time on the show, so you're a friend of the program, and thanks for joining us today.
I appreciate y'all having me.
So here we go, spring football here, and we were just talking off air how it's wild. You're in year 4 with the program, and I know fans are really excited to see you coming back for a fourth year. You've been here every step of the way with Coach Dillingham. What ultimately led you to make the decision to come back for your last year?
I think it was a lot that went into it, but I'd say the main thing was really it was just between declaring for the draft or coming back here. I mean, if I came back, I didn't want to go anywhere else. Like, I know how special this place is, and the people here, the teammates, the coaching staff, everybody's here just like a true family feel. So I didn't want to go anywhere else unless I went to the draft. So, but yeah, I was just talking to God, a lot of prayer, a lot of talks to my family, trying to figure out what's the best decision for my life. So, so here I am.
You're taking the phrase lifers seriously, and I think that's really special, though, honestly, all jokes aside, because it's becoming more and more rare to have someone here for all 4 years, and the changes you've seen through this program, the highs and the lows and everything in between. I'm curious in terms of this spring, it being your fourth one, knowing kind of what's going to come on a day-in, day-out basis, how is this spring so far compared to maybe the previous 3?
I think we're off to a good start. I think obviously we've had highs and lows, different days, offense, defense. But I think we're growing. I think that's all you can ask for at a certain point. So as the team continues to grow together, learn each other, obviously it's a new team compared to, I guess, that year 2 and year 3, the guys, like, we all were together. Like, we all knew each other. We were all played the year before. So it's just different now to have a new team, trying to figure out, learn new guys in just a short period. Like, everything is just fast-paced now. Like, you have to learn the guys more. You have to connect deep on a deeper level and at a quicker time period, especially with the way the portal is and things like that. So I think those 2 years we had where everybody was together, it wasn't real. And now I feel like now we're in the real new way of college football. Like, everything's sped up. Like, you have to get to it now. And I think the spring ball, we're starting to learn what people can do.
I'm glad you brought up that point, because I was going to ask you about that in terms of the special culture you guys have had that was talked about so much over the last couple of years. And like you said, so many new faces this year. Obviously, leaders like yourself, and the coaching staff remains intact for the most part. But what's it been like trying to establish that culture, maybe build upon what it was, or mold it into something a little bit different with this new group? What's that been like so far?
I think it's been good. I think the guys that's been here just have to kind of instill it and set a standard, and that new standard we have for the program. I think each year it should grow. And I think this year we have set the bar a little higher of what we expect day in and day out, what practice should look like, what your routines look like how you represent yourself and how you take on work every day should be higher than what you've been doing. So I think at this point we have guys who like to work, and I think we always talk about how mindset is more important than fundamentals. And if you have the right mindset, then everything else will come in. Like, if you want to get better, you'll get better at the fundamentals. But this all starts with the mindset. We talk, Coach Dilly and the coaching staff talk about it all the time. So I think we have a lot of guys who have the right mindset. So starting off spring ball is a good way to start. Now we have to just keep growing.
The mindset's clearly important, and I think it's already been talked about a bunch in terms of a bunch of the new guys you guys have brought in. big guys, tall, very fast. Like it's an exciting roster in terms of what Coach Dillingham has said so far. There are some freaks that were brought in out of the portal, and even some of the younger guys as well. Is that something you've kind of noticed as well? Is just the makeup of this roster being really, really impressive in terms of the intangibles?
Yeah, when you look at the team, like you just see bigger guys. I think that goes a long way when you pass the eye test as a team. So not only do we have good players and play the part, we also look the part. So I think it's kind of just another factor that goes into that some people just don't think about. But yeah, once you have guys that look good and can play good, I think it's a next step, next level.
This is a perfect segue into a question of something I'm excited to hear you talk about, and it's a former defensive lineman turned wide receiver, Clayton Smith, running with the offense now. So before anything, I got to get your scouting report on what you've seen from Clayton so far on the offensive side of the ball.
I've been giving him a hard time.
I figured. That's why I was excited to ask you.
I've been giving him a hard time because he still wants to get in our huddles and break with us and stuff like that. I always tell him, you're not a rushman anymore unless you have the white jersey on. But I mean, wherever he's at, he's going to show out. He's an athlete. He's a playmaker. So whether he's on defense or offense, I mean, obviously I prefer him over there on our side. But wherever he's at, I mean, he's going to make a difference, and whatever helps us win games, I think whatever helps, and he can go ahead and do that. But yeah, I mean, we make fun of him because he ain't got too much love over there, so we even call him all block, no rock. But but he when he gets it, he does make some things happen. So. And once he gets the ball more, I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, once he gets a hold of it, I'm sure he's not someone that people want to tackle.
Yeah,
that much is true. I'm curious as well then, are we going to see you in specialty packages in the red zone? I think you get the ball to CJ Fite inside the 5-yard line. It could be pretty special.
See, I would agree, but I was talking to Dilly, and he said I'm no longer doing athletic things.
Wow.
We were practicing a fake punt, I guess, my sophomore year, and I pulled my hammy in practice. So he said we're done with athletic things, so I guess I'm going to stick to DT.
Dang it. That's a shame. That's a shame. Maybe his mind will change as time goes on. I hope so.
We'll see.
It would be electric.
It would.
We've seen your athleticism before in games as well. You know, in preparation for this interview, I was reading about, you know, your journey here, and a quote that you actually said you enjoyed. I think it fits spring ball pretty well. It is, preparation gets no recognition but reveals itself during the competition. That is spring football in a nutshell, I think. Not many people are keeping an eye on football right now with so many other things going on. Obviously, you guys have some open practices, and then you'll have the spring game towards the end of it as well. But how important are these days and weeks of practice in terms of what you see on the field come fall?
Yeah, I mean, this is where it starts. Really, it starts in January once you start training. But this is where real football starts, and you really get to see who's about it and who you can trust. And obviously, you can grow a lot from now to fall. But I think once you start, like we talk about the standard we have for our football team, this is just like the taste of it. Like what we do now should be a sliver of what we should be doing in the fall, but not in terms of intensity of how hard we work. Just a matter of we're not doing as much, but we should be doing it just as hard as we would come fall. So this is a time where you really just set the standard and you find out who you want to be as a football team. And I think that's our goal from this spring, is just be able to win each day, become as we grow each day, win each day, then everything else is going to play out how it needs to be. So,
CJ, I've got one more for you, and it's been interesting, the loops, if you will, in terms of the national recognition of this program. Your freshman year, 3 wins. Not many people were talking about you. Sophomore year, you take really the college football world by storm. Last year, you had all the expectations. This year, it kind of seems like it's going to be in between, right? Maybe people aren't going to pick you to win the conference, but you're going to have some expectations, not as high as last year. Do you like having people maybe overlooking your team again heading into this season?
100%. I think the years we've had what people, I guess, call success in everybody's eyes. I guess the people thought the second year, just however people think what success is. Coach Gilly always says success is different to different people. But I think those years we had the most quote-unquote success was when we were counted out and we were one of those underdogs. And I think as long as we keep playing like we're those underdogs, and like most of the guys are on the team, well, I know from prior teams and even some guys that are here now, like they're not guys who've always been that guy. They've always been guys who've been overlooked and just been waiting for a chance. So I think as long as we keep playing with that chip and not letting everything get into our heads, whether it's hype, whether it's money, or whether it's just like just being comfortable. As long as we stay uncomfortable each day and want to grow and want to have that dog mentality that we've had and don't lose it, then I think this team will take the world by storm.
Hunting the standard, right, each and every day. And CJ, it's been awesome to watch your career so far. I know I echo the fan base when I say we're so happy to have you back again here for year number 4. Good luck the rest of spring, and hopefully the wait till fall doesn't take too long, because I know we're all excited to get going. Thanks for joining us, man.
I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
We'll be right back. Back here on Sun Devil Extra, rejoined by ASU AD Graham Rossini, and it is a busy weekend around campus. There have been some exciting things that have taken place since we last talked that we'll get to in a moment, but postseason play taking place on campus as we speak this weekend with Gymnastics over at Desert Financial Arena. It's a cool opportunity for them to host, obviously, a regional. The Gymnastics team back in the tournament for the 8th year in a row, so congratulations to Coach Santos and company for reaching that, and obviously hosting it's pretty special as well.
Yeah, it would have been 9 if not for COVID, but eight tournaments in a row is great. It's nice that we've got the chance at Desert Financial Arena to welcome in that event. Busy week, obviously the women's Final Four is in town, and that's a heavy lift, and we've got a team that's equally as focused on the Gymnastics Regional, welcoming Arizona as we'll compete, and then a number of other top programs on the West Coast. So a really good showcase for the sport, and kudos to Coach Santos and his team for that consistency. Probably one of our most consistent programs in terms of tournament pedigree, and it's nice that they get a chance to compete at home, and let's see if we got a magical run in this year.
Yeah, it's a young team too, right? So it projects nicely for the future as well for the gymnastics program. You want to talk about consistency. I know you were out seeing them compete over the weekend in Atlanta, the swim and dive program. First off, hats off. Give you some of the tallies that they finished with on the men's side, finished inside the top 5 for the 3rd time in the last 5 years. That's unbelievable in its own right. Women finished in the top 15 in the national championships, and then a couple of national championship trophies will be coming back to Tempe as well. The 400 free relay, and then Elia Karoun, who is a stud. He won the 200 fly. I'm imagining it was quite the scene in Atlanta, and bringing some hardware home as well never hurts.
Yeah, it was fun to be there, coming back top 5 once again. And the senior class, you can't say enough about the senior class that's been here for 4 years. All they've done is win conference championships. They have a team national championship 2 seasons ago. They've got a number of individual national champions, including the handful that happened this past week in Atlanta. So couldn't be prouder of that senior group. But then you mentioned Ilya, who's got some time left, and he's already been an Olympian. Very good likelihood that he'll get a chance in LA in 28 to return in that. I think there's probably 4 Olympians on the male roster right now across several countries, and so really neat to see them compete. Consistent top 5 program. Herbie Boehm, arguably one of the best head coaches in the sport. He's homegrown. He's a Sun Devil. He is so good at what he does, and he's so passionate about this program. And he lived through some really lean times. There's been some cool stories that ASU News has been done about Herbie, when the program was cut and then when it was restored, and kind of the lean times that they've had building it back up into national prominence. But we had an early flight Sunday out of Atlanta, 7 a.m. out of Atlanta, and TSA is getting it back on track. It was a little dicey Sunday morning, so there was a 3:30 wake-up call to get there. And at the airport, you see these guys carrying these little mini white boxes with NCAA championship trophies and the placards from the photos. But it's a really great event. Georgia Tech was an incredible host. It was the pool that they used in the '96 Olympics.
Oh, wow.
So pretty good swimming history that's happened from a swim and dive standpoint in that facility. It was great to be there. One of my favorite cities in the world, so I always enjoy a chance to go back to Atlanta. But really proud of the program and what they did. Back-to-back Big 12 champs, and then now sitting top 5 on the men's side. A lot of momentum into our swim and dive programs, and couldn't be prouder of these guys.
It's sustained excellence at this point. It's awesome. And
aside from the national champions, probably one of the most incredible accomplishments, Johnny Kulo, senior swimmer, part of the Relay Bros, dominated with some relay national championships, Elite 90 academic winner. So the top academic swimmer in the entire championship meet was a Sun Devil. I think number 2 was probably Remy, so we would have been 1 and 2 in terms of the best academic athletes, the best student athletes in the competition. So shout out to Johnny. He's leaving on top. Can't wait to see what he does next. Very bright student athlete, very motivated young man, and hopefully he continues to swim because he can compete professionally or internationally at a very high level. But I know he's got big plans for his career, and we can't wait to see what he does.
Yeah, that's a mark of someone who's going to be very successful no matter what they decide to do ultimately. That's That's pretty special stuff. Pretty awesome. Congratulations again to Coach Boehm and the swimming program because, again, like you said, it is awesome to see what they've been able to do over the last several years and continued it this year as well. Some other sports to tell you about that are taking place this weekend. Beach volleyball will be at home this weekend. 4 matches, I should say, between Friday and Saturday. They've had a solid start to the year so far. They'll be at home, like we said. Women's tennis also will be at home. They'll see Texas Tech and Colorado this weekend over at the tennis complex. The men are on the road against Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. And then water polo on the road against Indiana. That'll be on Friday. Time now for our favorite segment. It's what we close the show with every single week. It's the Sun Devil for Life of the Week. Graham, who you got?
We got a big name this week. Didn't get a chance to see him, but I got an email yesterday from Byron Scott, basketball legend. Very excited about the appointment of Coach Bennett. We'll be coming through Tempe in the next couple of weeks and wants to spend some time with us. I haven't had a chance to meet Byron since I've been in the role, and so definitely eager to reconnect with him. And there's been so many basketball letter winners that have reached back out over the past couple of weeks. I got a note from Avi Story a few days ago. I need to get back to Avi if he's watching. I apologize for not yet responding to your email, but Jeff Ayers has been close to the program. Kyle Dodd, a number of others that are just really excited about this next chapter for Sun Devil basketball. But a few names better in the program than Byron Scott, and so really pumped up to peek at my inbox and see a note from Byron and mention that he's coming to town and can't wait to see Coach Bennett and plug back in. And so it'll be fun to get that brotherhood of basketball alums back around the program as we proceed. So, but always a thrill to get an email from a legend. So shout out to Byron Scott.
That's really cool and very important, like you said, to keep the alumni around and have them active in the program as well. That's really important, obviously. Well, that does it for today's program. Big thank you again to CJ Fite for joining us. Of course, a busy weekend as we documented throughout the show. If you're going out to the Women's Final Four, enjoy. If not, enjoy your weekend and watch some Sun Devil baseball and softball while you're at it. We'll talk to you next week on Sun Devil Extra.